What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Tech Tuesday. This is Martin G with Corridor of Fame Academy, and over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about how we can leverage AI and how we can leverage APIs to create our own AI tools. So this week is going to be no different. Right now, we're going to be talking about another project, and I think this week is probably going to be much shorter than the previous ones. But the project we're going to be doing today is generating or using Open API's image variation API. So I'm just going to show you really quickly what we're going to be doing, and it's going to be as simple as generating a variation of a particular image. So you will provide an image, and then whenever you run the API, it should generate an image that is slightly different from what you've already provided. So this is going to take a little bit of time, and as you can see, today we're going to be using an image of a beagle, and here is the image here. If I run this, and then you also have the ability to download. If I run this again, we should get a slightly different variation of this image. And as we're doing that, we are realizing that we can use this as as you can see, this is another variation of it. And so this is what we're going to be doing. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Over the past few weeks, we've talked about how to we've gone over how we can use APIs that are publicly available to get some work done. And so this week is going to be no different. We're actually going to start again going back into Open AI's documentation for their API. And again, if you don't know what APIs are, then make sure you go back to the previous weeks where we went more in depth about APIs, and we went into how we can leverage those. We actually have a couple of presentations where we covered that. So what we're going to do right now is go back into OpenAI's documentation. We've already covered image generation. We've already done an essay generator. So now we're going to use one of their other one of their other APIs, and this is going to be to create an image variation. So as you can see here in this example, this was the original image, and then the output, once you use their API, is going to present a slightly modified version of it. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using the create image variation function, and as always, you can go to GitHub and do a git clone of this particular project. You should have access to it. If you don't, then definitely let me know and go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up from the command line. And on the command line, I'm going to just run a couple of commands. I have already modified the file the way that I wanted to run, the way that I needed to, the package JSON, the way that I needed to be modified. So I'm just going to run a you're going to run a yarn install, and this is going to install all of the packages that we need for our project. All right, so that's finished. And when we are finished downloading all the packages, then we can run a yarn dev, which will essentially start our application running. In your case, you probably don't have anything else running. So you'll start on port 3000, but mine is going to start on 3001. So I'm just going to open this up in a tab just so you can see. And as you can see, this is the previous project. So this is the image generator where we insert text prompt, and then it will generate an image for us. So I'm actually going to ask it for an image. And then, oh, this is a nice image actually. And so then I can attempt to download that image, but that's not really the goal of this. But anyway, this was the previous project, so what we're going to do is modify that to be more like this one. All right, so let's get started. So this is meant to be a little bit of a continuation from the previous one. So I'm just going to keep building off of what we've already done. And what you'll recall from the previous lessons is that we had an image generator where in this one we had a download image function. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of walk through what we want this to do. So remember, we're always going to start with the end in mind. Now, if we keep the end in mind, we know that we want to have a button to do some type of function to create an image variation, and then we'll know that we want to present that image on the screen, and then we don't have to, but we probably want to have a download function so that we can download this image. Pretty simple. So this is going to be some type of a form, and then the backend where the API call is going to be made is another thing that we'll want to do. So we've actually already done a lot of this already. Most of the work has been done before. All we're going to really be doing is just changing a couple of lines here and there. So I want to actually go into our generate file where we were making the API call to OpenAI. And as you can see before, when we were using this API call here, it was just a few lines that we were going to be using. So this was the create image API call that we made before. And then the new one that we're going to be doing or using is going to be the create image variation API call. So we could essentially go ahead and copy this, and this is going to give us what we need. So let's go ahead and copy that. Notice this line is going to be the same, so I'm going to just copy and replace this whole thing here. Okay, so we know that we're going to be creating an image variation, and then we know that we'll need to give it a file name here. So I'm going to for now put some placeholder text there to say this is a placeholder, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to create a constant, and we're just going to save that right now for now as blank, and then we're going to use this file name value down here. And I just want to point out a couple of things with this. So here, this is the image that we're going to use, and then this number here is the number of images that the number of variations that we'll want to receive. And then this 1024 by 1024 is the dimensions of the image. So essentially that means that it's going to be a square. So any image that you're using for this project will need to be a square, a perfect square. All right. Now, for now, we'll leave this. We'll have to remember to come back and make some modifications to the actual file name for the image that we're going to be using. But for now, let's go back into, and we can save that for now, and let's go back into the index.js file. So in the index.js file, we know that we already had a function, or we already had a form. So this form is actually going to be much simpler than what we had previously. So previously we had a text box, and then we had a button here. Now we just have a button that's just going to start some work. So we can keep that in our mind. So if I were to look here, I see this input is where that text file was. So I'm just going to remove that. Okay, now, and if I save that, it should get rid of that. Okay, so here we are, where it has gotten rid of the text box now. So now it just says create image. So let's go ahead and change the text that's in this. So we only have one input value, or one input in this form right here, and we want to change the value of that to be create image variation. So let's go ahead and do that. We can save that change, and we can see that that is populated. Okay, now remember, anytime we're using a form, we can use this on submit function that will essentially tell our application what to do whenever we click a button, and in this case we have a submit button. So on submit, once we click this button, then we want this function to be initiated. So on submit is a function that we define in here. So let's find that inside of this file. All right, now here it goes. So on submit, we are making a call. We're doing a try. We're making a call to our API generate. So if this is new to you, then essentially what this is this is the file that we've already created in Pages API generate. So this is going to send a request to that file with the values that we define here. And we actually, so most of this is going to be the same, but we're going to tweak it just a little bit. And so in order to do that, we're going to modify our, we're going to just modify some of our variable names here. So instead of image prompt, we're not using an image prompt anymore. But let's just go ahead and call this image file, because now we're going to be using, we're going to be dealing with an image file. So let's just call it image file and then set image file. All right, and then, so that's fine. Image result and set image result are actually okay. We don't need this image prompt here anymore. We can delete any reference to image prompt now. And then let's see. All right, so actually we are going to, I know I have image file here, but we don't even really need to use this right now. But I'll tell you why in a minute. But previously we were making a call to that API function, and we were sending it a method, a post with this header, and then we were sending the value of the image prompt. So we were using the image prompt to send to the backend to tell ChatGPT what text we wanted it, or what prompt we wanted it to generate from. In this case, we're actually going to simplify this example, and we're not going to pass a body function this time around, or we're going to make this example a little simpler today. So let's just comment that body function, or that body definition for now, and let's just leave it at it as is. So we're just going to make a call to the API generate. We're going to make a fetch to that, and then we're still going to run the same type of we're still going to want to get the results from it, because it should still give us an image URL. That much should not change. So it should, the rest of this information should still function the same way as it did before. So we'll just do that. And then over in our API generate, so let's go there. If we go into that file, now we're gonna come back to this file name here in just a second. But if you can recall, we had our configuration step where we are using our API key that we get from OpenAI. So make sure you go into OpenAI to get an API key, because that's critical for this to work. But this is essentially a check to make sure that it can create a new configuration with the API key that you have defined inside of this .env file. And then once it verifies that, then it will create an OpenAPI connection with that configuration. And so this is the verification to make sure that it is configured properly. Now, the next step was essentially us making a validation to make sure that we weren't sending an empty request to the backend here. And in this case, this was very useful for us before, but we don't actually need it because we're not sending a body to this backend right now. So this is a step that we could essentially we can comment for now, but honestly, we can actually really delete it. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete it. instead of commenting it out. And then we will do a try. So then we'll try to get an image variation, or to create an image variation, and then we will read the file name. So now I'm going to go ahead and tinker with the file name. So what this part right here is doing is, this is a file system. This is going to be a file system dependency that is using. So we actually need to define what this is. Now, ChatGPT didn't tell you how to do it, but I'm going to show you that it's really simple to add just a single line to make sure that you're using the file system. So this is a library that allows you to see the files or access the files on your physical file system, or on your file system of whatever machine you're operating from. So and you can read the documentation for that, but essentially what this is going to do is create a read stream. So for whatever file you give it, you're going to give it the path to file, and it's going to read that file. So this should be an image file here. So what we're going to do is make sure that we are providing a full path to an actual image file. And I'm going to go back real quick to the documentation, because the documentation is really important here. Again, right above here, let's see. So let's actually right below it, it tells us that we need to make sure that the input is a square image and that it's a PNG file of less than 4 megabytes in size. So if you run into any issues with your files, please make sure that they are PNG files, that they're square, meaning they're at least, well, they could be 1024 by 1024, 512 by 512, 256 by 256. But we want to make sure that they're square files, that they're PNGs, and that they're less than 4 megabytes in size. So that's very important. And then once you get that verified, then you want to make sure you find a file. You want to make sure you have a file. So I actually have a couple of files on my machine, and I'm just going to paste the path of the file. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to hopefully show you one of the files, one of the original files, so that you can see what it looks like. So this is an original file here. This is what the original file looks like. As you can see, it says Beagle Dog, and when I save that, it should create, and when I save and run this, it should create an image variation. So I'm just going to walk through this again real quick. It's going to send a response, or send a call to a request to create image variation. It's going to send that to OpenAI, and then if everything works fine, it's going to give us back an image, or it's going to give us back some data, and we're going to extract the URL from it. So we want the image URL from it. And then right here, I'm just logging the URL, but this line is not necessary. But then we're going to send this back as an image result. And again, remember, we're doing error handling here. So we're checking to see if there are errors. If there are errors, we display the errors. And if not, then we have success. So I'm saving that. I want to go back to our index.js file and then just verify. I'm just going to do a quick glance to make sure things look okay. There will be some CSS that we'll have to change slightly, but I'll change this. Instead of saying image generator, image variation generator. Okay, save that. And now we'll make sure I'm on the one with 3001, and I just want to refresh that just to do that. All right, now I'll click create image variation, and there's no indicator right now on this page to let me know that it's running or to let me know that it's doing something, but it is. So it created some type of a variation of it. Not really pleased with it. So let's do it again. Okay, so it gave another image. It gave another variation of that image. So I actually want to do something real quick. I want to put a spinner on here just so that I know that I have an indication of this, that this is actually doing something. Actually, before I do that, let me see if I can download this image. And I should be able to download it. Actually, if you go into the download image function, we have an output directory, and I'm actually going to change this to be images. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to click download again. Now, if you go back to your project, you'll see an image folder got created, and you'll see an image. This image has been added in here, and so this is the image. All right, now that works. So let me go back to the index.js, and then I'm going to make a couple of tweaks here so that, again, I can see some type of indication letting me know that this is still in progress, or that the image hasn't downloaded yet, or that it's actually trying to download. So there, as we've done with the essay generator, we're going to use a little bit more state variables here. So let's excuse me. So I just want to use an is loading variable, which is going to tell me whether or not it's loading. So whenever I press submit, I want it to start loading. So I want, whenever I press submit, I want to set is loading to true. Okay. And then whenever it stops, whenever it finishes loading, then I want to set is loading to false. Okay. And then there's one more thing. We actually have to put the spinner, we actually have to put the spinner in here, or put the logic in here to determine whether or not it is spinning. So two more things that we need to do. So right below this, I'm going to add the spinner. We can put it in the form, or we can put it out of the form. But essentially we're just saying, is the spinner loading? If it is loading, then show a spinner. Use the CSS that we have, and if it's not loading, then don't show anything. So I'll save that. And then there is something inside of our CSS file that we need to modify, that we need to add. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going over this kind of quickly because we've already gone through a few of these already. So I'm just going to copy and paste that spinner code. This is just CSS to show a spinner. So I'm going to save that, and I'll come back and run this again. Now you can see the spinner is here. So it's loading. And we have another image variation. So you can play with this a little bit. Now, I said it would work. I didn't say it was going to be pretty. So that's what we have right now. And you can change the image. So if you wanted to change your image, you would go into the generate file, and then you would change the path to the image. So I have another image that I want to play with, and let me see. So again, you want to make sure that you're using PNG files, and you want to make sure that they're square. All of the files that I'm using right now are PNGs, and they are squared files. So I'm going to have another image that I'm going to use, and I'll show you what that looks like, the original. So this is the original of that image, and then I'm going to create another variation. Okay, so it modified a little bit here. Um, didn't do a lot, but it did something. So we have the chain that it kind of removed, and it added maybe I guess that's a tag to the collar. It has a tongue sticking out now instead of just showing its teeth. The eyes are definitely warped. The tail is a little different. So it made some changes to the image, and you can play with that again. You could do another image variation to see what else you get. Okay, changed it a little bit more. Now I have another file here of my dog. Hey, Midnight. And I just made this a square file. I wanted to test this out a little bit. I didn't really like what I got from it whenever I tested it, but I'll just show you a little bit. So I'm going to change this name here, and let's see what image we get or what variations we get. That's actually not bad. I'm gonna save that. And again, if you save, you should see that they changed it a little. They changed it's changed. It looks better, smaller, but hey, you get what you get. So I'll just create another variation. It actually looks more cartoony than anything. It looks like a painting. Yeah, I like the other one better. But anyway, that's the project today. So we were able to go through OpenAI's documentation and pull out another example of an API that we can use. So this time we created an image generation or an image variation of an existing image. So hopefully now you're seeing that you can start to tap into these different APIs so that you can modify files, so that you can become, again, you want to become more of a producer of this tech instead of just being a consumer of it. So now we are making sure that we're placing ourselves in position to be able to leverage this technology in ways to be able to create other platforms for people to leverage. So now you have, if you followed along so far, you have an image generator where you can generate an image with a given prompt. You have an essay generator where you can generate an essay about any given topic. And now you have a image variation generator where you can provide an image and then it can give you different variations of that particular image. So now you have started to use different tools or different API, or at least the same API, which is OpenAI's API, to create different projects. So there are tons and tons and tons of other APIs that are available. Some of them are free to use and some of them are not. It's just up to you about what you want to do. If you wanted to create an app or something or a website that had a payment integration, you can use a Stripe API to integrate and to set up payment and to receive payments for a website. The opportunities are endless whenever you think about what it is you want to create. So again, I challenge you to build on this project that we have started. Right now we are manually editing the file to give it an image, but what about if you were to actually upload an image here? Every time that you did this, you were to upload an image. So you can test that out. We've been able to use input from a text, so see if you can use input from an image to generate this image, to make this more dynamic, to make this more dynamic in use. And see if you can make some other changes to this. See if you can change the CSS. See if you can make some more tweaks. Think about maybe even go back to a previous project and see what other prompts you can think of to create. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, my name is Martin G, And we are Corridor of Fame Academy. And the goal of our academy is to really teach you how you can leverage technology to not just be a consumer of it, but to also produce. We have so many tools at our fingertips right now. And for a lot of people, they look at it as a big barrier to entry, but we know that there is not much that we can't accomplish. So good luck. If you have any issues, if you have any questions, make sure you reach out. Feel free to comment below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you sign up for updates at corridoroffameacademy.com. If you want to see more content like this, if you want to see more in-depth videos, if you want to understand how to use source control, how to use any specific programming language, make sure you let us know and keep us engaged so that we'll know what it is that you actually want to do. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you are getting ready to start on your projects. We have other things coming in the future, and stay tuned, stay tapped in. Good luck on your journey.